Jim Ryan with ABC News. Good morning, Jim.
I like that. Barkley, yes, appearing last night at a Doug Jones rally in Birmingham, Alabama. Last night, after a couple of days' absence from the public eye, Roy Moore was back on stage standing alongside Steve Bannon, the former political advisor to then-candidate Donald Trump. So, yes, both of them holding rallies last night. Their ads are airing today. The robocalls are going out from President Trump on behalf of Moore, from former President Obama and former Vice President Joe Biden. Speaking for Doug Jones. So, yeah, it's finally come down to this. The polls open in 9 minutes, McGraw.
I know you were sent down there, Jim, to speak for a whole state, which is virtually impossible, especially in this situation. But what's the thought down there? I mean, what are people saying just in the coffee shops down there?
Well, I mean, it's about a lot of things. It's about Roy Moore's record as a judge, these allegations that have come out against him. It's about Doug Jones's party affiliation. It's almost impossible for a Democrat to win statewide office here. It hasn't happened in about 25 years. That was Richard Shelby, who later turned Republican and is still sitting in the United States Senate. So, you've got these two figures, both of them with baggage that they'd rather not have. Jones with his party affiliation, I suppose. People are having trouble getting through that, and Moore with these allegations and his own judicial record.
I do find it interesting that the argument was that they didn't want Democrats. They didn't want liberal Democrats from the Northeast going down there, and they didn't want these Hollywood liberals coming out telling these Alabamans how to vote. But did anybody tell them that Steve Bannon made his money in Hollywood and he was educated in Georgetown?
Well, he brought that up last night in very blunt terms, standing on stage there outside Dothan, Alabama. He says, "I'm not a Yankee. I'm from Virginia, and I went to Harvard. I went to these Ivy League schools, but that doesn't make me a Yankee. I'm a Southerner from Virginia." I mean, this is the Deep South, though. This is the Old South down here in Alabama. So, it's interesting. And both sides have talked about voices from the outside coming in and influencing these voters here. But you had the robocalls from President Trump for Roy Moore, those from President Obama for Doug Jones. So there are outside voices, whether the people here want it or not.
Did anybody look sort of odd when Roy Moore released a video of him being interviewed by a 12-year-old girl?
Yeah, it was unusual, wasn't it? I mean, it was you understand what's going on, of course. Everyone who looked at it did. There's the Roy Moore campaign saying, look, these allegations against a guy accused of molesting a 14-year-old in the late 1970s. How could that be true? Here he is with a 12-year-old being interviewed. So, that was really one of his only two public appearances at all over the last week or so, until last night.
How is the Richard Shelby Republican coming out saying they can't vote for Roy Moore? How's that playing down there?
Well, I mean, we just don't know at this point. I asked some Republicans about that yesterday. They're Roy Moore supporters. They really, they aren't so concerned with what Shelby says. But consider, McGraw, that this is not so much Roy Moore versus Doug Jones. It's Roy Moore versus what Bannon and Moore and others call the establishment Republicans, the Mitch McConnells, the Richard Shelbys, the others in Jeff Flake. Those, they say, are entrenched Republican politicians. They say that they're trying to do something different, that they're following the lead of President Trump.
Jim Ryan down in Mobile, Alabama, but you're so cheap you won't even buy the ad-free Words with Friends, so I don't know how much we can...
I kind of like the ads. Keeps my finger on the pulse.
There you go. Jim, be safe. We'll talk to you soon.